Alright, let's dive into this because it's a wild ride and it's got me thinking about how fragile our systems can be, even when we think we've got them locked down. So, here's the deal: N-able, a big player in remote monitoring and management tools, just got hit hard. Attackers exploited an authentication bypass in their N-central platform, which IT teams and managed service providers use to oversee customer endpoints. What's fascinating here, and honestly, a bit alarming, is how this wasn't just a one-and-done breach. Their first fix was incomplete. That's right. They thought they patched it, but the attackers found another way in. Personally, I think this highlights a massive issue in how we approach cybersecurity. We often treat vulnerabilities like isolated problems, but they're more like ecosystems. Patch one hole, and another might open up if you're not looking at the bigger picture. What makes this really interesting is the Cloudflare tunnel angle. After compromising N-central servers, the attackers used Cloudflare's tunneling service to maintain access to managed endpoints even after N-able revoked their initial entry point. Now, Cloudflare wasn't compromised here, the attackers just abused their service. But this raises a deeper question: how do we balance the convenience of tools like Cloudflare tunnels with the risk of them being weaponized? It's a double-edged sword, and I'm curious to see how companies like Cloudflare respond to this kind of misuse. Another detail I find fascinating is how the attackers ran these tunnels as services. That means they survived reboots, which is a pretty clever persistence tactic. From my perspective, this shows how attackers are evolving. They're not just looking for quick wins, they're building infrastructure inside compromised systems. It's like they're setting up shop, and that's a worrying trend. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about N-able, it's about how any tool or service can become a backdoor if it's not monitored closely. Now, let's talk about N-able's response. They've released a new build, 2026.3.1.7, which is supposed to fix the issue, but here's the kicker: upgrading to 2026.3, their initial recommendation, is no longer enough. That's a huge oversight, and it makes me wonder how thoroughly they tested their initial patch. In my opinion, this is a classic case of rushing to put out a fire without fully understanding the blaze. What this really suggests is that companies need to adopt a more holistic approach to patching, not just fixing the code, but also hunting for persistent threats that might already be lurking. One thing that immediately stands out is the lack of transparency from N-able. They haven't disclosed how many customers were affected, how many devices were compromised, or even if data was stolen. Personally, I think this kind of opacity doesn't help anyone. Customers deserve to know the full scope of the breach so they can take appropriate action. What many people don't realize is that transparency isn't just about accountability, it's about collective defense. The more we share about attacks, the better prepared we all are. Finally, let's talk about the broader implications. This isn't just N-able's problem, it's a wake-up call for the entire industry. Managed service providers are prime targets because they're the keys to the kingdom. Compromise one, and you potentially compromise hundreds or thousands of their clients. If you ask me, this is a reminder that we need to rethink how we secure these critical systems. It's not enough to patch and pray, we need proactive threat hunting, better monitoring, and a culture of transparency. So, here's my closing thought: what if this is just the tip of the iceberg? We've seen attackers exploit one vulnerability, find another, and set up persistent backdoors. What else are they capable of? And how many other systems out there are sitting ducks, waiting for the next incomplete patch to fail? It's a chilling thought, but it's one we need to confront. Because if we don't, we're just setting ourselves up for the next big breach. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.